everyone. Now I have an interesting topic to talk on, and that's strategies for developing and implementing telecommunication, wireless and mobile healthcare service. That's a very loaded topic, the pain point of most people working in this field. The question is, why do we need wireless health? So let's look at two perspectives. One is the rural healthcare scenario and the other is chronic diseases. There's a huge divide in terms of haves and have-not when it comes to healthcare. And that's availability, accessibility, affordability, you can call it anyone. And this is a reality. When you go to rural India, you will find people will have to travel 20 kilometers to reach a sub-center. So we start creating hard infrastructure, we might build a few facilities in rural India. NRHM is trying to do that. You know, a sub-center will cost between 8.65 to 13.5 lakhs. Now you can build those facilities. You will probably continue with it. I mean, some are saying NRHM will get extended. Yes, it will. It will get extended till 2017. What beyond? The cost of running is 34,000 crores. The question is, can you keep running it? Can you keep expanding it? Even if you do, absenteeism is not going to go away. I mean, let's be realistic. A doctor who studies MBBS and MD spends 8 to 13 years in studying. He is not going to go back to rural India to serve and make his life miserable for his family. That's always going to be reality. So this will continue to be a perennial problem for healthcare in India. So let's see the economic survey of 2009-2010. 13% of rural population have access to primary healthcare center. 33% of rural population have access to sub-center. 9.6% of rural population have access to hospitals. 28.3% of rural population have access to dispensary or clinics. 34% of rural population have access to diagnostic centers. And only 24% of rural areas have access to healthcare facilities. That's the reality. And that's not old statistics that I'm quoting. This is the data mostly from the Government of India, except the last slide from the Chronic Care Foundation. So there's a twin burden of chronic diseases, of a huge population chronic diseases. So we have 14% patients with arthritis, which is 140 million, WHO statistics. 10% patients with hypertension, 100 million, again a WHO statistics. 5% patients with diabetes, which is debatable. The actual number is way too high. We know it's around 12% plus, so that actually takes the figures to 120 million. There are more than 100 million people undiagnosed patients of diabetes and hypertension. India already has 150 million elderly patients, which is more than 73 years in age. We have not included patients suffering with chronic diseases like asthma, CVD, cancer, and psychiatric disorders. The chronic disease prevalence is between 5 to 20% when it comes to individuals, but it is 100% when it comes to families. 100% of the families suffer from the impact and burden of chronic patient. Now I can just give you a quick technology adoption and preventive care the only way for rural India. As I said earlier, it's a fact that policymakers find it very hard to realize. They still believe building fantastic rural infrastructures will push doctors to rural India. It is never going to happen. I have no offense intended for any doctors, but they study for a better lifestyle, for the betterment for the families. They are not going to go back to rural India to work. Few may, because of their origins, because of their love for serving the country. But for a majority, it will still be a perennial problem. So even if government builds, some hospitals, it's financial ad hocism. You're wasting hard taxpayers' money. I mean, I would like you to see the last report of the Public Accounts Committee. They have recommended that NRHM should be just removed from the taxpayers' money. It's a waste of money. That's the reality. Now that being said, if that's the reality, what do? We should leverage the 3G and WiMAX that the government is rolling out, and use it to avoid pain, suffering, and high cost of healthcare, because that is one thing that can give at least access, if not care. But access is important. You need to know what is happening to you. So we need to carefully tread the path of working with RMPs, which was earlier known as registered medical practitioners, to rural medical practitioners, and use mHealth as means of access. I mean, if you see these photographs, let me tell you, ASHAs are doing a fantastic job with whatever they are equipped with. There is no point in just condemning every part of government that government is doing. ASHAs is doing a fantastic job, but if you want to go a step further and say, we'll send doctors in place of ASHAs, it won't ever happen. But the point is to work with quacks. I mean, they are anyway trusted by people, to work with chemists. Give them access to technology and take care to people who need it. So way to go for mobile health. Everyone who is into it or probably sitting in a room is a part of such a system would know the pain of being a part of a mobile health company. Now, it's a reality that for everything mobile health is given like an ultimate solution. It's not. You got to figure out where the real gap is. Where do you need it the most? So let's understand. Psychiatry, 1 doctor for 1 million population. Very difficult to pick up a patient suffering from psychiatric disorder and take him to a doctor, to another town. Then to wait in his chamber for hours to get his meeting. So I think telepsychiatry or mental health, using telemedicine is the first thing to look at. The second thing is patient with diabetes, hypertension and CVD. Anytime they check your readings, they need information what to do after it. Those people need solutions where they get awareness, they get the next steps to be taken if there is a problem with their readings, and SOS has to be there. Health helplines. Few states have started implementing, but this is a need where you don't see doctor face to face, you are more open to talk. I think this is the biggest thing that can happen for healthcare is to leverage technology using health helplines and IVR. Rural health, infant mortality, maternal mortality. I will further showcase to you a company that is doing a work on this, and there are multiple companies doing on it. I was on a part of the jury of the E Awards and I had seen multiple entries coming on issues addressing IM and MM. The good point is using this technology, you spend less than 5,000 for multiple villages and you have reduced maternal mortality by 93%. And we talk of 61 deaths per 1,000. I think it's worth deploying technology. I will show you 3 or 4 slides at the end of the presentation how a company in Varda is doing it with the government locally. Geriatric care, the less said the better because they definitely need mobile health. Daycare surgery centers, this is a new phenomenon in India, but we already have 2 chains operating in India. Now a concept of daycare surgery is you get into a hospital in the morning, get your operation and get discharged in the evening. But typically what happens, such a patient needs to be connected to his nurse, physician or physician attendant at least. So mobile health or telehealth comes into a very important play when it comes to daycare surgery. It has to be an integral part of that offering. Referral and second opinion. Already many people in India are using it. Doctors in smaller towns want to connect to doctors in Bombay, Bangalore because centers of excellence still remain there. The government has done little to set up centers of excellence. You either go to Bangalore, you go to Delhi, you go to Chennai, you stop at those towns. So referral or second opinion has to go the e-health way. Workforce wellness. Still a very weird thing when you talk of to employers. They believe that's not their responsibility. But once it gets in, and those people who are doing it are leveraging mobile health technology for implementing healthcare programs in their organizations. It's time to move directly to a M-health record rather than a e-health record. With 875 million cell phone users in the country, I think it's time for we move with the mobile health record. Why should a person carry a separate record when he has a mobile phone? That should act as his mobile health record. Now the issues before providers, those who are into this M-health space have few critical issues. And so by the time their business is reaching some understanding of the market forces, the balance sheet is totally torn. So what are the issues with them? Adoption is the biggest issue. Finance is the second. Getting finance for their business is a big issue and a challenge. Getting up to scale, to find a way where you can replicate models, you don't reach the scale. And finally the business models currently are a big question mark. You go and talk about mobile health to users, to doctors, to anyone, they say, I don't think it makes sense for me. I make more money doing what I do. So I think these are the 4 big challenges before mobile health providers. So what to do with them? Now get the key opinion leaders to use the services. If Dr. Devi Shetty uses, all people in his chain use. If a top dermatologist uses mobile health, people down who follow him use it. So the first thing to do for providers is to get the key opinion leaders to start using those services. Rather than focusing on the big market below, start work parallelly on the users who are at the top, the key opinion leaders for the segment. Have the right platform to spread. Everyone is talking that we want doctors to use it. Don't go to doctors. Chemists, physician attendants, nurses and pharmacists. This is the best route to go and implement mobile health. Doctors are a part of it anyways. But don't go straight to the doctor and use it. Go a level below. Come out with outcome studies. This is one of the biggest problems in India. You talk to any mobile health provider, he will quote studies from US, Europe and Russia, and he'll say, see what mobile health has done. Now while companies are investing millions of rupees, I'll not say dollars in India, they are doing the work for 3 years, 4 years, they finally close and sink in. By the time you are anyway doing protocols and studies, why don't you put those studies, give it to independent agencies which are credible and come out with outcome studies? If you had those outcome studies, the people will adopt easily. But that research part is completely missing in Indian business houses who want to get into mobile health. Unless that is addressed, I don't see adoption happening so easily. Start with leasing models. I mean, everyone wants to sell a telehealth solution. You ask him what's the price, he'll say 15 lakhs, sir. And at 15 lakhs, no one is going to invest. I mean, go to the patient and say, sir, invest 50,000. Sorry, that's not working. So I think if it calls for investment above 10,000 for individual, above 1.5 lakh for anyone else, whether it's a doctor or a corporate, better go to leasing model. That also shows your commitment that you are going to work with him rather than take money and run away. So financial models needs to be self-sustaining in the short term. You know, this is one business, healthcare is one such business. If you are not sustainable in the short term, you are not sustainable in the long term. I had the opportunity to work with the biggest business out in the country, driving their health agenda. It's the biggest. But unfortunately, it's not a telecom business. You need to be financially viable in the short term, medium term and long term. So telehealth at least has to be. You can't wait for long term success if you don't have short term and medium term success. It's going to be elusive.